When the billionaire's wallet slipped open, she saw something that made her blood run cold. It was her mother's photo, a simple black woman who had lived an ordinary life, raising her child alone. Her mother had no known ties to wealth or power. So why was her picture in a white billionaire's wallet? Stay tuned to find out the truth that shattered her world. The late-night shift dragged on at the quiet diner. The hum of a flickering neon sign outside barely broke the silence. Maya Johnson wiped down the counter. She was exhausted but relieved that the night was almost over. Then the bell above the door jingled. She glanced up, expecting another weary traveler or a local looking for coffee. Instead, a sharply dressed man strode in. His presence commanded attention. His suit probably cost more than her entire yearly rent. He moved with quiet confidence, scanning the diner like someone used to owning every room he entered. Maya watched as he settled into a booth by the window, his piercing gaze locked on the city streets. When she walked over to take his order, he didn't bother looking at the menu. "Black coffee," he said. His voice was low and firm. She nodded, jotting it down. When she returned a few minutes later with his drink, he barely acknowledged her. Used to the indifference of customers, she didn't take it personally. But when he reached for his wallet to pay, something slipped out. A photograph fluttered to the floor, face up. Maya's heart stopped. She knew that face, the warm, gentle smile, the kind eyes. It was her mother. For a moment, all she could do was stare. Her pulse pounded in her ears. Then, before she could stop herself, she bent down and picked it up. "Where did you get this?" Her voice came out hoarse, barely a whisper. The man's head snapped up. His cool blue eyes locked onto hers for the first time. He truly saw her. Maya turned the photograph toward him, gripping it tightly. "Why do you have a picture of my mother?" His expression flickered, just for a second. Then, just as quickly, his face became unreadable again. Without a word, he reached for the photograph. His fingers brushed against hers as he took it. "You must be mistaken," he said, tucking it back into his wallet as if it meant nothing. Maya's stomach twisted. She knew exactly what she had seen. Her mother had kept a near-identical photograph in a small memory box back home. She had memorized every crease, every detail. This wasn't a mistake. "I'm not mistaken," she said firmly. "Why do you have it?" The man exhaled sharply, adjusting the cuff of his expensive suit. "I don't owe you an explanation." Then, before she could react, he stood, placed a crisp $100 bill on the counter, and walked toward the door. Panic surged through her. He was leaving. This might be her only chance to find out the truth. She rushed out from behind the counter, nearly knocking over a tray in her haste. "Wait!" He didn't stop. He was already heading toward a sleek black car parked at the curb. The driver stepped out to open the door. Maya's heart pounded. "Please, just tell me how you knew her." For a brief moment, he paused, his hand resting on the car door. She thought, hoped, he might actually say something. Instead, he turned just enough to meet her gaze. His stare was cool, detached. Then, in a voice devoid of emotion, he said, "Forget this." Then he slid into the car. The door shut behind him. The engine roared to life, and before she could take another step, the vehicle disappeared into the night. Maya stood frozen on the sidewalk, her breath coming in uneven bursts. A billionaire had just walked into her life and left her with more questions than she could count. Who was he? And why did he have a photograph of her mother? She wasn't letting this go. She was going to find out the truth. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat at her tiny kitchen table, her laptop open, searching for any clue about the man from the diner. She didn't know his name. No business card, no receipt with a name, just his face, his voice, the dismissive way he had looked at her as if she were nothing more than an inconvenience. But that photograph changed everything. She started by searching for wealthy business tycoons, real estate moguls, and influential CEOs. Dozens of names flooded her screen, but none matched his face. Her frustration grew. Hours passed, but then, as she was about to give up, she saw him. Jonathan Reed, CEO of Reed Global Enterprises, a billionaire real estate magnate whose empire spanned cities. His name was tied to luxury developments and high-profile deals. Maya clicked on his image. Her breath hitched. It was him. She scrolled through article after article, but nothing linked him to her mother. No past relationships, no known family ties, nothing. Which meant only one thing. He had erased her. Maya clenched her fists. He had walked into that diner holding a picture of her mother and acted as if she didn't exist, as if Claire Thompson had meant nothing. The thought made her blood boil. She wasn't letting this go. She needed answers, and she knew exactly where to start. The next morning, Maya boarded the first bus downtown. Her heart pounded as she stepped off in front of a massive glass skyscraper, Reed Tower. The building loomed over her, a symbol of wealth and power. But she wasn't intimidated. She walked inside, straight to the reception desk. "I need to see Jonathan Reed," she said, her voice steady. The receptionist barely looked up. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Maya admitted. "But it's important." The woman sighed, unimpressed. "Mr. Reed doesn't take walk-in meetings." Maya expected this. She had no appointment, no official reason to be here. If she wanted answers, she'd have to find another way in. Her eyes darted around the lobby. Security guards stood near the elevators. Employees flashed badges to get through the turnstiles. There was no way she was getting in the normal way. Then she spotted him, a young man in his mid-20s, balancing a coffee cup and folder, heading toward the elevators. He looked distracted. She moved quickly, falling into step beside him. "Hey," she whispered urgently. "Wait up. You forgot to send me that report Mr. Reed needed." The man blinked, startled. "What?" Maya sighed in fake exasperation. The report he was expecting this morning. Before he could respond, she smoothly stepped forward, walking right through the turnstile just as his badge activated the sensor. The guard barely glanced at her. She was in. Her pulse pounded as she stepped into the elevator, pressing the button for the top floor. This was it. She was about to come face to face with Jonathan Reed. And this time, he wasn't walking away. The elevator doors slid open to the top floor of Reed Global Enterprises. Maya stepped out, her breath shallow, hands clenched at her sides. The reception area was sleek, modern, and intimidating. A man in a dark suit approached her instantly. "Miss, do you have an appointment?" "No," she said, "but I need to see Jonathan Reed. It's about my mother." The man's jaw tightened. "Mr. Reed doesn't take walk-ins." Maya exhaled, her heart pounding. "Tell him my mother's name was Claire Thompson, and I'm not leaving until I speak to him." The man hesitated before disappearing down a hallway. The minutes stretched endlessly. Then, finally, a door opened. Jonathan Reed stepped out. The moment he saw her, something flickered in his gaze. Not surprise, not anger, but something closer to resignation. He walked toward her, slow and deliberate. Then, after a long pause, he simply said, "Come with me." Maya followed him into his office, her heart racing. The moment the door closed, she turned to face him. "Why do you have a picture of my mother?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached into his desk, pulled out his wallet, and placed the photograph on the table. Maya stared at it. Then, slowly, her gaze lifted to his. "You knew her," she whispered. Jonathan met her eyes, his expression unreadable. "I didn't just know her," he said finally. "I loved her." Maya's world tilted beneath her feet. She had come for answers, but she wasn't prepared for this. Jonathan leaned against his desk, exhaling sharply. "I loved her," he repeated, his voice carrying the weight of years of regret. "But I walked away." Maya's chest tightened. "Why?" His jaw clenched. "Because I was a coward. My family made it clear. If I stayed with Claire, I'd lose everything. The inheritance, the business, my place in their world." Maya's stomach churned. "So you left her for money?" Jonathan's gaze darkened. "I thought I could come back for her later, when I had secured my future. But by the time I did, she was gone." Maya's hands curled into fists. Her mother had suffered while this man had lived in luxury. "She never told me about you," she whispered. "Not once." Pain flickered in Jonathan's eyes. "Because she wanted to protect you from me." The weight of his confession settled in the room, suffocating in its intensity. Maya took a shaky breath, trying to sort through the tangle of emotions. She needed space to think, to process. Without another word, she turned and walked out of his office. That night, she searched through her mother's belongings, hoping for answers Claire had never given her. As she sifted through old letters and keepsakes, her fingers brushed against something small, a velvet pouch tucked at the bottom of a wooden box. Maya's breath hitched as she pulled it out and carefully opened it. Inside lay a delicate silver necklace with an engraved pendant. The 3 words forgive, love, begin were carefully etched into the metal. On the back of the pendant was a small, faded photograph, one of her father. A note accompanied it, written in her mother's handwriting. This belonged to your father. I kept it for you. One day, you will understand. Her hands trembled as she realized the full weight of the truth. Jonathan Reed wasn't just a man from her mother's past. He was her father. The next morning, Maya stood outside the towering glass structure of Reed Tower once again, gripping the pendant tightly in her hand. The city buzzed around her, but her mind was locked on one thought. This man was her father. She took a deep breath and marched inside. This time, she wasn't sneaking in. She strode up to the receptionist's desk, her voice steady. I need to see Jonathan Reed. It's urgent. The woman barely glanced at her. As I said before, Mr. Reed doesn't take walk-ins. Maya's hand slammed onto the counter, revealing the pendant. Then tell him his daughter is here. The receptionist's polite expression faltered. There was hesitation before she finally reached for the phone. Within moments, security guards flanked Maya. But before they could escort her out, a deep voice cut through the air. Let her in. Jonathan stood at the end of the hall, his face unreadable. He turned and walked toward his office without another word. Maya followed, her pulse hammering. Inside, the door shut behind them, enclosing them in thick silence. Maya wasted no time. She placed the pendant on his desk and crossed her arms. Explain this. Jonathan stared at the necklace. His fingers hovered over it, but never touched it. His jaw tightened, his composure slipping for the first time. She kept it, he murmured, almost to himself. She didn't just keep it, Maya shot back. She left it for me, along with a note. She never told me who my father was, but this, she gestured at the pendant, this told me everything. Jonathan exhaled sharply, rubbing his temples. I didn't know, he admitted. If I had known she was pregnant, if I had known about you. He let the words trail off, as if they physically pained him. Maya's chest ached, but she refused to let sympathy cloud her anger. But you didn't know because you left. I searched for her, Jonathan said, his voice raw. By the time I realized what I'd lost, she had disappeared. I hired investigators. No trace. She made sure I wouldn't find her. Maya swallowed the lump in her throat. That sounded exactly like her mother, protecting her at all costs. But was it really protection, or had it stolen something from her? She thought she was protecting me. From you, Maya said slowly, testing the words as they left her lips. Jonathan flinched. Maybe she was right. Silence hung between them. For the first time, Maya saw the cracks in his armor, the regret, the sorrow, the years of wondering what could have been. I can't change the past, Jonathan said, his voice quieter. But I can be here now. Maya's fingers curled around the pendant. Forgive, love, begin. The words weighed heavy on her. I don't know if I can forgive you, she admitted. Not yet. Jonathan nodded, his expression solemn. I understand. Maya took a shaky breath, her mind racing with questions, emotions, uncertainty. But one thing was clear, she wasn't walking away. Not yet. For the first time, she was willing to hear him out. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them felt like a fragile thread, ready to snap at any second. Finally, Maya reached for the necklace on the desk and clasped it around her neck. Her mother had left this for a reason. Maybe it wasn't just about Jonathan. Maybe it was about Maya, about giving her the choice her mother had never had. Jonathan's eyes flickered to the pendant. His breath hitched slightly. She really never stopped thinking about me, did she? Maya swallowed hard. She never stopped protecting me. He nodded, understanding. I won't ask you to forgive me today or tomorrow. But if you ever want to know me, not as Jonathan Reed, but just as a man who made a terrible mistake, I'll be here. Maya studied him, searching for deception, for arrogance. She found none, just regret, just a man who had spent decades haunted by a choice he couldn't take back. She stepped back, her fingers brushing the pendant once more. I don't know what comes next, she admitted. A small, almost sad smile crossed Jonathan's lips. Neither do I. But maybe that's okay. Maya nodded. Then with one last glance, she turned and walked toward the door. Not running, not storming away, just leaving on her own terms. She wasn't ready to call him her father, but she wasn't closing the door either. Not yet. For the first time, she was willing to hear him out. Forgive, love, begin. The words weighed heavy on her. She wasn't ready to forgive him, not yet. But she wasn't shutting him out completely either. Some wounds weren't meant to heal overnight. She walked away, not to erase the past, but to decide if she was ready to rewrite the future. Every step felt heavier than the last, as if she were carrying not just her own pain, but the weight of years lost. She hesitated for a fraction of a second, but didn't look back. Not because she didn't care, but because some wounds weren't meant to heal overnight. She walked away, not to erase the past, but to decide if she was ready to rewrite the future. She wasn't ready to call him her father, but she wasn't closing the door either. Maybe some things weren't meant to be rewritten, but maybe, just maybe, they could be rewritten together. Maya's story is proof that the past doesn't have to define the future. Sometimes, healing isn't about forgetting. It's about deciding what comes next. What do you think? Should Maya fully let Jonathan into her life and give him a chance to be the father she never had? Or is it better to keep her distance and move forward without him? Can love and regret truly heal old wounds? Or are some scars too deep to mend? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think is the best ending for this story. If you enjoyed this story, share it with your friends and family, and if you want more powerful and emotional stories like this one, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. We'd also love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below about this story, and if you enjoyed this story, give it a big thumbs up. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that touch hearts and inspire change. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next story.